can all see my screen. So welcome to this webinar for the preparation of the EUDIS Hackathon in Noordwijk from 17 till 19 of October. As said, some of you already did register, which is with good news, of course. So hopefully we'll meet in person in Noordwijk. And this webinar is some kind of a preparation to, well, today especially to learn from the winner of last year, and also addressing the topic a little bit of protection of space assets. It is not a webinar about diving into the content of the protection of space assets, because unfortunately subject matter expert was not available. So what I can do, if you have specific questions, please put them in the chat, and I will get back to you with answers if I can find them. Because as you can see later on in the slides, we have a pool of experts from technology institutes who certainly can help you with your specific questions. So what's the program for today? First, let me introduce myself. My name is Martijn Seiger. I'm one of the founders of DotSpace Foundation, who is the coordinator for this hackathon. So I will tell you something quickly about the program of the hackathon. So we have some features which I think quite nice. Then Karol will enlighten you about tips and tricks for winning the hackathon. So and given the prize package, I think this is a very good lesson. And then some questions for Karol about his presentation. And hopefully we have an open discussion then about any specific needs, questions, or whatever. So maybe we can then prepare for the next webinars or the last info session. So as said, DotSpace is the coordinator of this endeavor, of this hackathon. And I think we have quite a large team, and the partnership, it's a multi-stakeholder partnership, and the partnership is, of course, the Ministry of Defence is there, NL Space Campus, the Economic Board of the Duin en Bollenstreek, Province of South Holland, Innovation Quarter, then TNO and NLR, and the Incubation Center in Noordwijk. So the Ministry of Defence, they have in the Netherlands a few innovation centers, which they call MIND-base, and MIND stands for Military Innovation by Doing. So this is like the portal for SMEs, startups, industry to engage with defense. As we all know, defense is not like an organization reaching out to the industry asking for stuff. There's a lot of procurement, and it's not easy to get in touch with them and to do business with them. During the hackathon, staff from defense, from the MIND base, will be available, and also or to help you and guide you through the hackathon process. Then NL Space Campus is the branch organization for the space cluster in Zuid-Holland. They will provide also open their network. Economic Board is specifically for the Duin en Bollenstreek. Why is it relevant? Because they stimulate the high-tech industry, not only by setting the right conditions, but also with funding. So funding opportunities might also be there. Then, of course, we have the TNO and NLR. I'm not going to mention them all, but these are the knowledge institutes also heavily involved in the defense domain, space and defense domain. We will have subject matter experts from TNO and NLR on site to help you with technology questions or data issues regarding the challenges in the hackathon. Then what are the three main challenges? So protection of space assets, space for defense, and sovereign aerospace. I think you all had a look at these challenges and the various topics which are there. So any specific questions, feel free to ask. If we don't have the answer now, then we will get back to you and provide you an answer as good as we can get it. And during the hackathon, these topics will all be addressed by, as said, the experts which are on site. I have to say that in the webinar of the 9th of October, we already have a confirmation that specific aspects about the use of drones in Ukraine will be highlighted. Then, okay, if you then join the hackathon, where is it then? It's in the Comet Lab, which is in Noordwijk. The building is brand new. It will be opened on the 7th of October. So we're one of the first parties to use it. And it is next to STEC and next to the Galileo Reference Center. It will be open from 8 in the morning till midnight. And afterwards, we can accommodate you for 30 euros for a full weekend in a nearby hotel in Katwijk. So if you want to use this, then please let me know, so we can make the reservation. Then from the mentor side, as said, like the experts from Mind, Tino, NLR, also Karol, our speaker of today, will be there. Then Innovation Quarter is there, like the regional investment manager from the SEC Fund, which is the fund for defense industry. The incubation center and other mentors will be on site. We will make clear when mentors are available, because some of them won't be there during the full weekend. So then after your hard effort to provide the winning prototype, we have the following confirmation of jury members and advisory board. So in any case, don't have a name yet, but Ministry of Defense will be involved. Then Economic Board is involved. Then we have Philip Wijmaert. He's TNO Director, Electromagnetics and Military Operations. He's based in The Hague. He will be in the jury. Then from the industry side, we have Taras Matsalaikou. He's the founder from Opnet, which is an AI-driven company in the domain of space and in the domain of defense, working in a lot of projects with, for example, NLR and in ADF-funded projects. And then we have Max Straatman from the investment fund. So a variety of experts ranging from industry to government to investment to military. What's in it for you then? Besides a good weekend, we have some prizes. So 3,000 euro cash as you are a winner, plus the technological support from TNO and NLR, and more business support from the incubation center in Noordwijk. And then we offer you, of course, pitch slots in certain settings from Space Campus, media exposure, and a funding scan, which we can offer. So, and then we assess which kind of types of funding are available, which might fit the status of your venture. Second place, 1,000 euro cash, 4 hours technical support, also media exposure. And the third place, 500 cash and some media exposure and also the funding scan. Some prizes are still in the making. So please stay tuned so we can provide you an update on this. But I think it's worthwhile to join. So before I shut up, spread the word. And in case you didn't do this yet, please register. You will be routed to Taikai. It's a relatively easy process. And I hope to welcome you in the Comet Lab in Noordwijk, October 17th. So that's it from my side. Are there any questions regarding this introductory presentation? If not, then I will stop sharing. Oh, someone waiting. Then I will stop sharing. Slides we will distribute it afterwards, maybe most likely tomorrow. And then I would like to give the floor to you, Karol, to tell about your journey in the last EUDIS Hackathon with AquaHub.
Yes, so I will just share some slides with everybody, but the good thing is that I've participated in the EUDIS Hackathon, the last edition, and I was the winner for the last year's edition. So today you will get some hints and tips on how to actually approach this hackathon, how to make the best of it, and ideally, fingers crossed, how to win that hackathon. So Martin, I just want to verify, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. So like I mentioned, I am Karol. I'm from the AquaHub team, the winning team of the first EUDIS Hackathon, and a winning team of a few different hackathons as well. So first thing I wanted to tell you is a bit about who I am, because I will be at the hackathon itself as well. So I'll be there to help you out, to mentor you. And therefore, it's probably the best that you know a bit about me as well. And you know what I'm good at and what I'm bad at. So you know what to come for with the help. So my background is I am an astrophysicist. I'm also a researcher. I currently work at the European Space Agency as an electronics and radio frequency engineer. So if you have any kinds of solutions that involve making electronics at the hackathon, I am probably the right person to approach. The team of the AquaHub is, I want to briefly mention this, quite varied. If you look at the slide and you look at our backgrounds, we have people that do astrophysics like myself, but we also have people who do electronics. We've got mechanical engineers. We've got people from additive manufacturing. We've got people who do programming. So what I'm getting at is that when you're forming your teams at the hackathon, make sure that your team has a varied range of skills. That's the first hint I can give you for the hackathon, is to get as many people as you can in your team, or maybe not too many, but get like 3 to 5 people in your team and make sure they have very wide backgrounds. So the first mistake you can make at a hackathon is just to get people who are into software development. If you just get 3 programming people into your team, then you will be missing a lot of key skill sets that will be necessary further along. So, bit of a word about why do we even care about hackathons, because some of you may not be fully convinced towards coming to this hackathon, some might not know what a hackathon is. So the first important thing you need to know about a hackathon, that is an innovation playground. At a hackathon, you can invent and play around with ideas that are normally too risky to approach. So what I'm getting at is that if you have a full-time job and you're working at a job and you're an engineer side, you would not come to your boss with an idea with this like 90% chance of failing. But at a hackathon, you can explore ideas which are very likely to fail, that are very risky, but it also have a huge benefit, huge upside potential. So that's the first benefit of hackathons, that you can work on things that normally would be too risky to even try. Second thing is that you get a safe space for testing. So you get about 48 hours at a hackathon for a 2-day hackathon. Sometimes you get 24 hours for a 1-day hackathon. It's not a lot of time, but it's great time because you get the ability to test any idea you want. You get lots of prototyping equipment. You get access to experienced mentors. And that means you can try out your idea in a much shorter time than it would normally take you. So say you're building a flying drone. Normally, that's something that would take you a few months to develop. But at a hackathon, you can make a small prototype within 1 day and then test it and evaluate it on the 2nd day. So it's amazing because you get to speed up the normal process by a lot. And the first thing is probably my favorite, which is networking and learning. So at the hackathons, you will meet experts, you will meet founders of companies, you will meet investors, people who are normally very, very difficult to access. As an example, in the last year's hackathon, when we were participating with the AquaHub team, we had direct access to people from the Ministry of Defence. So what I'm asking you is this. Normally, do you think it's easy to reach someone like a colonel from a Ministry of Defense? It's not easy to reach such people. You can send an email and normally they will ignore it most likely. But in this case, at a hackathon, you get the chance to speak with them face to face. So I would recommend to make the best use of this because you normally don't get access to these people at all. And here you get access to those people for 24 or 48 hours and they are just here for you. And the final thing is that the hackathons are a launchpad for startups. So if you're thinking of making a company, of creating a startup, hackathons are an amazing place to start because within the first 48 hours, you can build your idea, you can test it out, you can verify it with key players in the industry, and you can possibly even pitch it to investors who are willing to put money into the idea. So normally that process, like I said, would take you months. But here, this is condensed into a 2-day workshop. So you get a huge opportunity of making your company in 2 days. So a few hints on what to do and what not to do at a hackathon. And I think there's some image problems here, but we'll survive. Martin, is that showing you like question marks on the images?
Yeah, and it's a bit blurred. Yeah, the question marks are blurred.
Well, ignore them because there should not be any question marks here. I'm not sure what's the deal with that, but okay, we'll go through it anyway. So here's a few things you should not do at a hackathon, a few things you should do at a hackathon. So the first thing I would not do at a hackathon is I would not waste time. Because what I often see when I go to hackathons is that teams spend a lot of time discussing and planning and eating the dinner and talking to random people, which is okay in general. However, you're wasting precious time. You only get 2 days. It's not a lot of time. If you think about the fact you have to eat, you have to sleep, you have to work, it is not a lot of time in 48 hours. And the second thing you should not do is making your solutions perfect. So the common mistake that teams make is they come to a hackathon and they think, okay, by the end of day 2, we will have built the exact thing we're planning. So say with the simplest example, you're planning to build a flying drone. And a lot of people come in to hackathons and discuss things like, oh, which sensor should we exactly use? Where can we buy it? How expensive will it be? And they spend a lot of time on details that are amazing details. They're good for making your product perfect. But a hackathon is not the right space to make your products perfect. A hackathon is a space to make something that works. It's not supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to just barely work to the point where you can show it to people and gain some interest. And then you can spend the next 6 months, 12 months mastering it and perfecting it. Okay, so that's the things you should avoid doing. You should avoid wasting time and you should avoid being a perfectionist. So what should you do? The first most important thing, especially in the first few hours of the hackathon, is to ask questions. Like I've mentioned, you will get access to a lot of mentors and a lot of experts. Use it. Ask them questions. Anytime you have an idea, come up to a relevant mentor and ask them, okay, is this a good idea? We'll get to the questions later. I'll tell you what kind of questions to ask and what questions not to ask, because there are good questions and there are bad questions. Second thing you should do is you should plan, but there's a little thing you have to remember about. You cannot plan everything exactly in every single small detail because it's impossible to exactly plan what will happen over the next 2 days. You can make the world's best plan, and then someone comes and tells you, yes, but there's a mistake in this plan, and then everything else collapses, right? So you have to be versatile and you have to be ready to change your plans as well. Next thing is you have to prototype. If you come to a hackathon, the goal is that by the end of the hackathon, you have something to show to the jury. And ideally, it's not just a PowerPoint, but it's a prototype of the thing you want to make. So remember that the hackathon is about asking questions, about planning, about talking, about teamwork, all that. But most importantly, it's about doing. It's about making things. So do that. And ideally, while you're doing that, have some fun. So this picture that's not loaded here, the picture was supposed to be here, is a picture of my team from the last year's hackathon. And you could see that all of us are smiling and happy because, well, while hackathons are very exhausting because you will spend 2 days working, they're also a lot of fun. You get to meet really cool people. You get to work on really cool problems. And I think this year's problems are especially interesting. So make the best of it. So I've mentioned asking questions to the mentors, but there's a whole skill set to how you ask questions. The worst kind of question you can ask is coming up to the mentor and saying, do you like this idea? I will explain why that's a bad idea in a second, but don't ask someone, do you like it? Because that's a terrible question. First of all, before you approach a mentor, you have to be picky about what mentors you approach. So the thing you want to avoid is talking to mentors who are not experts in the area you are working on. So if you have an idea, first think, okay, what kind of experts do we need? Example, if it's a software product, you can talk to cybersecurity experts. That's relevant, most likely. You can talk to software developers. That's also relevant. You can talk to mentors who are the key stakeholders. So if you're making a software for flying drones, you might want to talk to a drone pilot. That's a good idea. What would be a bad idea is if you're making a software product and you start talking to someone who's an expert in, say, manufacturing backpacks for soldiers. He might have a lot of expertise. It might be amazing expertise, but it's not relevant to what you are working on. So before you approach the mentors, think about whether this is the right mentor to talk to, because you could waste a lot of time talking to people who are not relevant for your project. So once you've chosen a mentor and you know who you want to talk to, you need to be specific when you ask them questions. There's this whole thing called a mum test, but I won't go into the details of it. I will just explain one sentence. If you have an idea for a startup and you go to your mom and you ask her, okay, mom, what do you think about this? She will mostly tell you, oh, son, I think that's a great idea. I think it's an amazing idea. I think you will make millions of dollars with this idea, because she's your mom. She's trying to be nice. She's not going to tell you that's a terrible idea. But if you ask the right questions and you come to your mom and you ask her, hey, mom, what's the last time you had to use the laundry machine, but you didn't have the detergent? It's a very specific question that is trying to get specific information. In your case, what you will be doing is you will be going to the experts and you will be directly asking them about their problems. So instead of asking them, hey, do you like this flying drone idea? You will ask them, hey, we are working on a flying drone. Can you tell me the drones you currently have, how long is the battery life on those? That's a direct question. And he will, for example, answer, oh, the battery life is 25 minutes. And then you ask him, you don't ask him, is that good or bad? You ask him, okay, with that battery lifetime, are you limited by it? Is that causing problems for you? If he says, yes, it's causing problems because, for example, we cannot accomplish missions because of such short battery lifespan, you can then ask, okay, what kind of missions is this preventing? And what battery lifespan would you expect your drone to have? That's specific questions that will give you specific answers that can be then translated into building your product. If the mentor tells you that they would like to see drones with a 2-hour battery lifespan, now you know what kind of battery you need to put into your flying drone. So be specific when you're asking questions, and you will get specific and relevant answers to those questions. And about the answers, you need to be open to feedback. So when the mentor tells you that something is a bad idea, be open to that, because the first reaction you usually have is when someone tells you that something is bad, you think they're stupid, you think they're wrong. Don't do that. When someone tells you something's good or bad, listen to them. But there's a caveat. Don't always blindly trust people. People have different opinions, different ideas. Some people may not be experts in a certain field. And the problem with that is that sometimes you might have a brilliant idea. You talk to one mentor, he will tell you it's a bad idea. And he might be wrong about that, but you will just listen to him and you go, okay, we're killing the idea. You should not do that. You should also sometimes question the mentors themselves. But if there's 3 different people telling you that something is a bad idea, probably you should listen to them. And the last thing about talking to mentors is taking notes. So it's a good idea to bring a little sketchpad or a notebook to the hackathon, just to make some notes whenever you get some ideas from the mentors, experts, or other teams. Because it's very easy to forget. You will get a lot of information throughout the 2 days. People will talk to you. You will get hundreds of people talking to you possibly. And you want to take notes and maybe highlight the most important points. But okay, that's about talking to the mentors. So let's say you talk to the mentors and you came up with some sort of an idea of what you want to make during the hackathon, right? You have some sort of solution you want to build. So you have to either love your idea or you have to kill it, because most ideas are bad. I can tell you this straight away. Your first idea will probably sound great in your head. You will think, oh, I've built something revolutionary. I'm making something impactful. But it's probably not. Your first idea will probably be complete crap and you'll need to cross it out. It usually takes about 3 iterations to get an actual sensible idea. So if you come up with something, wait for the mentors, get some feedback, then decide if it's a good idea, if you love it. If it's not, you kill that idea, you come to the next idea. Don't spend too much time on this, because what you don't want to do is waste the whole day on thinking about ideas. But usually take 3 ideas and take the best one from those 3. Kill the remaining 2, take 1. I think this is coming to the last point I have on this slide, which is pivot quickly. Usually that should not take you more than 2 hours. In the first 2 hours, you should have 3 ideas and 2 of them should be killed. 1 should remain. Don't overthink it too much. Don't spend too much time on this. 2 hours is a reasonable time to have 3 ideas and kill them. They don't have to be specialized ideas. You don't have to think about exactly how you will make them work. They just have to be ideas. So the thing you see on the slides, it's a device we built on the 2024 EDTH hackathon. So not the EUDIS hackathon, a different hackathon. And the reason I'm showing you this is because this was our 5th idea of that day. We had 5 different ideas on what to make on that day, and we stuck with idea number 5. The first 4 we had to kill them because of the mentor feedback, but also because of the feedback from the industry and the soldiers, because some of the soldiers told us your ideas are great, but they will never work on a real battlefield. So in the 5th day, we came up with something that might actually work. I won't get into details of what this is, but it is a component for sea drones that would make it slightly easier for them to navigate. But the point is, you will have a lot of ideas. I hope so. You must learn to kill some of them and choose the one you do love. So we'll do a little exercise now. I will tell you about one of the ideas we had initially when working on our startup. And in the chat, I want everyone to give me at least 1 positive and 1 negative thing about that idea. So I will briefly explain what the idea is, and I want you to give me 1 bad thing about that idea and 1 good thing about that idea. So What you see on the slides is a charging station for sea drones. The yellow thing on the left side is a typical drone that is used by the Navy at the sea. Those drones are used to make patrols, to secure borders, and to protect critical infrastructure. And the idea me and my team had is that we can make a charging station for those drones so they can recharge at sea. You wouldn't have to take them out of the water for recharging. They could stay in the water, recharge, and go back on patrol. That was the first idea we actually had at the EUDIS Hackathon, and that's what we pitched last year. That was also the winning idea of last year's EUDIS Hackathon, but we actually realized 6 months later that this is not a good idea, or at least not an ideal idea. There is some mistakes to this. It's not a terrible idea, but it's also got some drawbacks. So the way it was supposed to work is that the drones would have this black thing attached on top of them. It's an adapter that allows charging. And the white brick is a charging station. The drone would swim up to the station, dock to it, and recharge wirelessly, and then continue its mission. So that's the idea we had. And if I could get in the chat box from everyone one positive thing about this idea and one negative thing, because that's also supposed to teach you how to be creative and critical about your ideas. So let's give ourselves a minute or two to come up with some positives and negatives for this project. And I'll check if I can actually open the chat box as well to see what's in there. Well, let's see if we can get some ideas for what's bad and what's good about this project. And I'm not giving you too much details on how this works, because normally at a hackathon, your ideas will also not be very detailed. In the first 2 hours, I don't expect you to have exactly planned how this works. You will just have an idea of what you want to make. And you need to be able to either support that idea or kill it. And just that skill is quite important for hackathons, because you will see you have a lot of ideas and you need to be able to kill them. So have we got any takers for good or bad? Okay, I see the first bad one. Add on to the drone, risk of malfunction. So that is a very good idea, because that is something that people have actually told us about at the actual hackathon. We talked to a company that makes those sea drones, and when we showed them this idea, they immediately said they don't want this because it's an add-on to the drone. You're adding something to their equipment. That means it can fail and kill the whole drone. In fact, initially, we wanted to make this so that it's not an attachment to the drone, but it's integrated with the drone itself. And that was a terrible idea. Then we pivoted to the idea of attaching it on the outside of the drone so that it intervenes into the drone structure a little less. But I agree. The bad thing about this is that you are adding something to a drone that gives you the risk of failure. But then I'm also getting a positive of extended range. Yes, that was the whole idea. The idea that we had was a positive because it extends the range, right? And then I'm also seeing another one, extend lifetime at the sea without intervention. That's exactly what we had. And then another one, a technical problem. Okay, sea is not flat and it's a highly dynamic environment. That's true. We had this problem, but that's a technical problem. It doesn't necessarily kill the idea yet. It's just something to think about. Can we actually solve this problem, right? In our case, we have solved it. We have come up with a way to dock and recharge at sea, even when the sea is wavy. But it is something that could have killed the idea if we couldn't solve that problem. Another one, it looks quite simple. Simple ideas are great. I agree. Simple ideas are absolutely amazing. If you can make something that's simple and still fixes the problem, that's perfect. There's this principle called keep it simple, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. And I live by that principle. If you can solve a problem in a simple way, that is the optimal way to solve it. But it's also true, Magdalena, that you do need to produce a lot of adapters, lots of equipment will be produced. And what that leads to is the cost. That will be quite expensive. Another one, I like this one. The drone can be charged, but how do you charge the brick that charges the drone? I like that one. So that's something I didn't explain. And that's something we were discussing at the hackathon as well. So the initial idea is that the brick will be a buoy. It will swim at the surface of the sea. It will be equipped with solar panels, and the solar panels will provide power. But that idea was quickly killed because we realized two things. First of all, in a military situation, those would be like very easy targets to strike. You have something floating on the sea, it's defenseless, right? And the second thing is that they have to be very close to the surface of the sea, which makes it impractical because normally those drones are quite deep. So we had to kill the idea of using a buoy. Instead, we decided on attaching this white brick to the seafloor near existing infrastructure like pipelines or oil rigs and gathering power to that through cables. So taking power from oil rigs, taking power from gas pipelines at the sea and so on. But yes, that's a very good point, right? But okay, so I like this exercise not to get feedback for this idea, but rather to see whether you can find positives and negatives, right? And that is exactly what you will have to do in the case of your own projects at the hackathon as well. You will have to find positives and negatives for your own project. So based on what you've heard so far in the chat, just tell me, do you love this idea or would you kill this idea? The idea of having such a charger, would you love it or kill it? And as a little spoiler, we had to kill it, but only after like 6 months. And we didn't kill it entirely. We still think about it. Oh, okay. I like this one. If the brick is nuclear powered, keep it. I like that. Actually, we didn't think about that. We had no idea you can make it nuclear power, but now that you mention it, with the invention of small nuclear power plants like those SMRs, tiny reactors, that is a very good idea. You could actually have a power source anywhere. I like that. Okay. But then someone could say, okay, then why not put a nuclear reactor inside the drone itself instead of putting it on the brick? But okay, I like it. That is a very good idea, Ali. Any other takers? Love it or kill it? Okay, Martin is saying if powered by the flow of the sea, then okay. I like that. Okay. So I think everyone is seeing the same problem, that it's difficult to get the power to the brick. Nice. And I agree. That is one of the reasons this idea is a bit tricky. It's a bit problematic. Okay. And then we have one more. Keep it continuous monitoring option. Yes, continuous monitoring is something we've considered as well, but that's fine. But I do think everyone is falling into the trap of being slightly too positive. So that's something you will get with the mentors as well. Mentors are very likely to tell you, yes, it's a good idea, because they will probably like your idea, or at least they would pretend to like it. And I see the same thing happening here. Everyone is like, keep it. If something, but keep it. Nobody's saying don't keep it. Nobody's saying trash this idea, right? So you have to be careful about it with your own ideas as well. You don't want to be too positive about your ideas. With this idea, I chose this specifically because it's a mixed idea. It's not great, but it's also not bad. Some of the ideas you get at the hackathon will be bad. And in that case, you have to think about that and sometimes kill them. Okay, so I think we can finish our little good or bad idea exercise and we can keep moving. But just keep it in mind, some of your ideas will be bad. You have to scratch them, you have to kill them. If you love your idea, and if you're ready to go with that idea, that should leave you 46 hours to make the idea real. So we're going to talk about rapid prototyping. All this is about is being faster than the competition. The easiest way to win a hackathon is to be the only team that actually has made something during that hackathon. And I promise you, there will be teams who come to the hackathon with great ideas, huge ideas, but they cannot make them. And then there's someone that comes with a silly idea and a simple idea, but if they make it, they have a huge advantage over everyone else. So your first priority, once you have your idea sorted and you love it, is to make it come real. Be faster than your competition. It has to exist. It does not have to be perfect. In fact, it should not be perfect. Nobody expects you to make a perfect solution in 48 hours. It's impossible to make a working solution in 48 hours. But there's a hierarchy to winning hackathons. The best thing you can do at a hackathon is when you're presenting your idea to have a demo. So to show everyone a real thing you've built. That is the best thing you can do. If you can do that, that's amazing. The second best thing you can do is I call it PowerPoint, but this is not about the slides. You do not need pretty slides. Pretty slides do not win you hackathons. What this is about is having a presentation to show what you have done and what your idea is. If you can do that, that's also quite good. It's less amazing than a demo because if you can show in real time how your idea looks like and works, that's amazing. If you cannot do that, the second thing you should do is have a presentation to show it. The worst thing you can do is just talking about it and having nothing to show how it's going to look like and how it's going to work. Humans are visual creatures. We like what we see. That's why there's pictures in the presentations all the times. if you can show your idea, even on a rendering, even on a picture, even on a graphic or a sketch, that's already better because it makes it easier to understand how your idea works, how it's going to be built, and what the problems could be with it. So make sure you can prototype your idea, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but try to build something. Martin, I'm not sure what equipment the participants will get access to. Do they only get access to laptops, or do they get free printers? Do they get any equipment?
Currently, there's a meeting going on with the team which is responsible for the equipment in the Combat Lab. So we will definitely have some materials available. So it's not only a data-driven hackathon, but there can be stuff made.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, so this will be updated on the Taikai and on our webpage.
Very good. But specifically for this year's challenges, I think to all participants, bring your laptops with you, bring your keyboards with you, be ready to write some code, be ready to open up RStudio, Python, or whatever you prefer, and do not be afraid to prototype. Because like I said, if you only have a slide deck of slides, that's less impactful than a demo. I can give you an example from literally yesterday at the European Space Agency where I work. There was an internal hackathon yesterday, and the winning team made some software. But what's important is that they were the only team to actually build a prototype of that software and show it during their presentation. So the presentation wasn't even that good. They did not have amazing slides, but what they had is they had a laptop with them. They connected it to the screen and they showed a prototype of the software working in real time. Now, the software wasn't great. It had issues. It was slow. It was buggy. It looked very ugly. The fonts were all off. The sizing was all off. But the point is that it worked. It did what it was supposed to do. And those guys won because of that. There were other teams that had amazing slides, amazing presentations, wonderful teams, beautifully presented pitches. And they didn't win because they had nothing to show for their work. So in your case, make sure you build something, an app, a piece of software, some code, at least even pictures of what it's supposed to look like is a good idea to have. The worst thing you can do is just to say what you have or what your idea is, but have nothing to show for it. And this brings us to presenting your idea. Whatever idea you have, you need to be able to pitch it. You need to be able to sell your idea. So how do you sell your idea? First thing you do at a pitch, and that is a wonderful photograph of me pitching in 2024, I believe, after the EUDIS Hackathon at a different event. But you need to have a good opening. So what I like to do for an opening of a pitch is I start with a question or I paint a picture, a story. There are the two common ways to start a pitch, but here's some bad ways to start a pitch. What you don't want to do is start it with, hello, my name is, I am from team, and I will be presenting this and this. Because you are not getting attention with that. Unless your name is very specific or you're wearing like an interesting suit or something, you will not grab attention by saying, hello, my name is Karol, I am from Poland, I am in the AquaHub team and I will be presenting AquaCore. That is boring. That sounds like something you do at school. You don't do this at hackathons. At hackathons, you should come to the stage and start with an interesting question. My favorite pitch from the 24 edition of EUDIS started with a video. The team that was at the 24 edition, they were building a solution to jam drones at the battlefield, right? And their pitch started with a 20-second clip from Ukraine showing a drone striking a car. And they played this with full volume of lights dark, so everyone was absolutely shocked to see a video of a drone hitting and exploding a car, right? And that's when they started the pitch. But everyone's attention was on the screen, because imagine you're sitting in a dark room, you're slightly tired, you've not had your coffee, it's been 2 days, and then suddenly you hear the explosion of a drone. You look at the screen and there's a car on fire. Okay, that gets your interest, right? In your case, in your hackathon, you will not be doing that because there's no drones, no explosions. But it's still worth to think about how you capture the attention. The first 30 seconds of your pitch are the most important, because even before you get to your solution, you need to show your problem. And the best way to show your problem is with a question or by showing a story. And then you get to your problem. So before you talk about what you built, you need to say what problem you're solving. There are 3 challenges at this year's edition, but just beware, challenges are broad. A challenge is like a section of ideas. You need to be specific about the exact problem you are solving. And you need to be able to explain it in a very simple way. So your solution might be very complicated. You might be building something complex, but the explanation of your problem should fit into one sentence, and it should be possible to understand it, even if we are not educated. You don't have to be a physicist to understand your problem. You don't have to be a scientist to understand your problem. The problem should be understandable to the common public. If you ask someone on the street and you give them the pitch, they should be able to understand exactly what problem you're solving and why it's an important problem. And you need to do that quickly, 1 or 2 sentences. Don't spread your problem into a 10-minute speech because everyone will get bored. Once you have everyone's attention to your opening and your problem, then you can tell about your solution. And this doesn't need to be fast. Now you can take your time. You have their attention. You can spend 2 or 3 minutes talking about this. You can describe how you got the idea. You can describe how it works. So you describe your idea, you describe how it solves the problem. And the most important thing is, what value does your solution bring? So what you want to show to everyone, both the jury, the investors, but also all the military people that will be there, is you want to show them what value your solution has. So why is it important, and how is it helping them to so-called ease their pains? How is it helping them to make their life better, smarter, quicker? The worst kind of thing you can do is have an imaginary problem and an imaginary solution to that. So a problem that doesn't really exist and a solution that doesn't really help the problem. You should avoid that. Your solution should be very clear and your problem should be very clear. Everyone should be able to understand what you want to make, how it's going to work, and how it's going to help everyone. And then the next thing is the secret sauce. So after you explain your solution, if you don't explain your secret sauce, which I will say what it is in a second, someone from the jury will ask you, okay, but why are you better than all the other companies that already exist on the market? If you're making a software solution, my first question will be, okay, how are you better than Microsoft, Palantir, or any other huge company that makes software? Okay. If you're doing a large language module or any kind of AI model, I will ask you, okay, how are you better than OpenAI? Because OpenAI has hundreds of employees, millions of dollars of budget. How are you going to beat them? So this is where your secret sauce comes in. The secret sauce is basically your one advantage that you have over everyone else. Now, in your case, if you're going to a hackathon, your advantage will not be in the numbers, because you will not be a bigger company than Boeing, ESA, Airbus, Leonardo. You will not beat those companies on size. You will also not beat them on money. The price you're getting for this hackathon is quite big. You're getting 3,000 euros if you win this. It's a lot of money to prototype, but compared to Boeing, ESA, Airbus, Leonardo, OpenAI, Facebook, Meta, that is nothing. They spend more money on lunch than you will ever get in your life trying to make a startup. So you have to show the investors what your secret sauce is. Your secret sauce can be an advantage, like, for example, knowing some kind of technology that is so rare that no one else knows it. It can be intellectual property. Maybe you've developed something that can be patented. If you can patent your idea, that is amazing. Because even if Airbus can make it, they won't be able to, because your idea is patented, it's protected, right? So you have to have some sort of competitive advantage over those huge companies, which is always difficult, because it's never easy to beat someone like Airbus, right? And then the last thing you want to do in your presentation is impact. You want to have a statement which is so impactful that people will remember it, and they will at least think about the presentation for 5 minutes. The jury will listen to a lot of presentations throughout the day. They will listen for a few hours. At some point, they will get bored. Make sure you say something they will remember. I will go through this briefly, but if you're trying to develop your idea, you will need money. So before you ask anyone for their money, you need to know 3 things. How much money you need. You can estimate this. You can look at the market size. You can look at the cost of components and the cost of running a startup. Estimate how much money you need. Say exactly why you need that money. Because going to an investor and telling them, I need 200,000 euros is great. But they will ask you, okay, why do you need it? What will you spend it on? And if you cannot explain where this money will go, they will not see the value in that. Because they will think you just want to take that money and spend it on whatever. And the last thing is, every time you're talking to an investor, have one thing in the back of your head. How much money can they earn on this? I want their money, but not to play around, not to have fun. I want their money to make them even more money. That's the point of investing. If someone's giving you their money, they expect to get returns on this, either financial returns or technological returns, but they expect some kind of return. So you always have to think about, what can I give them in return for that money? So value proposition. This slide is not about value proposition. This slide is about how to make a bad slide for your PowerPoint. This is an actual slide we had in our previous pitch before we learned how to pitch properly. If you look at the slide, there's a ton of text on it. This is not what you want to do. I'm showing you this because a lot of you will probably make this mistake. A lot of you will put a lot of text on your slides. This is okay if you're sending your slides to a VC, so a venture capital fund, with the idea that they will read this. But most likely they will not read this. What they will read is only the big words. They will read benefits, features, needs, wants, fears, and experience. They will not read all the small stuff. Avoid doing that. Have your points clearly outlined with large font and avoid using extra words. So out of those benefits, I've got like 6 or 7 of them pointed out, right? For a proper slide, I would limit the benefits to 2 or 3 benefits. Features, I would limit it to 2 features. Needs, wants, and fears, I would only put 1 need, 1 want, 1 fear, and I would put them together. That's how you should do things. You should avoid having too much on your slides, because realistically, I promise you, no one will read this. You will read this, sure. The jury won't care. The judges won't care. The people at the hackathon won't care. This is a better slide. And it's also a slide I want to give you as a warning. There are so many easy ways to fail a hackathon. If you want to fail a hackathon, the first thing you can do is spend 90% of your time on the slides, because that leaves you only 10% of the time to network, to learn, and to develop your idea and to prototype it. So it should be the other way around. 90% of the time is spent on actually making your idea come to life, and then 10% is spent on making the slides. Realistically, you can just use a PowerPoint template, quickly put stuff onto it, and it'll be fine. The other thing you can do if you want to fail a hackathon is to ignore the feedback you're getting. If 3 people tell you that your idea is bad, you should slow down and think about it, because maybe it is a bad idea. The other thing is, at a hackathon, if you're slow, you lose. Hackathon's only 48 hours. So you only get 48 hours to make your idea come to life. You have to be fast. You cannot think, okay, we've got full 2 days, so I'm going to go get a coffee now, maybe take a nap, and then maybe we'll go for a walk and start walking tomorrow. No, hackathons are very intense, so you have to put a lot of work into them. And then the other idea is the problem of scaling. If you go too big or you go too small, you will also fail. So going too small is creating a problem or finding a problem which is very easy to solve. If you find a low-hanging fruit for which you cannot get a patent or you cannot have any kind of advantage, that is a bad idea, because it's something that Airbus can make in 2 working days and beat you to it, okay? The other thing is going too big. You want to avoid going too big. I've seen this many, many times where teams come to a hackathon and say something very flashy, like, our team is developing an autonomous, cloud-powered AI, SAS swarm of high-speed drones for multi-domain warfare, which is a beautiful idea, but I promise you, in 2 days, you cannot build that. You cannot build any single part of that in 2 days. So at hackathons, you don't want to go too big, because if you give them a ridiculously big idea, they will think, okay, there's no way you can actually build this, not even if we give you the money and the 6 months of time. So don't go too big, don't go too small. And that's the final thing I want to say is good luck to all of you. Enjoy the hackathon. Feel free to reach out, because I will be there. There are things I can help you guys with. There will also be many, many amazing experts at the hackathon that can also help you. You have to be brave, and I really encourage talking to people and engaging with them as much as you can. So good luck to all of you. Feel free to reach out. And if you have any questions, I am more than happy to take them. And this is your first opportunity to engage with mentors, to ask those questions. At the hackathon, this will be crucial. But now you get a sneak peek. You get the option to ask questions before everyone else does. So if you have any questions, let me know.